Welcome in the Sweaty Fantasy Football Podcast, episode number 6. We've got Zach and Braden back with me today, and Trevor. He's going to be a regular on this show, coming on for the first time. And it's going to be a great episode to have 4 people in here because we've got some news to talk about. We're going to talk about some trades that went down in our main Dynasty League, but then we're also going to do our first mock draft of the year. I don't know about you guys. I haven't done any mock drafts, so this is going to be a good try to get a lay of the land. Have any of you guys done any mock drafts?
I have not hit one yet. No, this will be my first. I've done some startup mock drafts because I was in a startup this offseason, but this will be my first redraft mock draft of 2025.
Yeah, I've done a few startups, haven't really done any mocking. Told Zach before the show, going in blind. I'm ready to get cooked. I'm ready to reach on a few guys. A few guys I feel like I already want to leave with. Um, I'm eyeing a kicker maybe round three. I don't know. We'll see. Mandatory.
Well, well, unfortunately, we dropped the kickers from this draft, or Steven Hauschka might be going in the 5th round. All right, we'll kick it off with the news. So Aaron Rodgers, he finally signs with the Steelers. Everybody knew it was coming. He was just sitting out. I saw he also got married, so he probably also just didn't really want to go to training camp as a 40-year-old. He decided to get married and go on his honeymoon. Um, Nobody's super surprised about this. It was kind of expected. You don't go into the season with Mason Rudolph as your starter. The contract is a 1-year deal, base salary of 13 million, 10 million guaranteed, up to 19 and a half if he basically wins MVP, throws 4,000 yards and goes to the Super Bowl. So it's about a 10,000 to 15,000, sorry, million, 10 million to 15 million dollar deal. It's a pretty solid deal, and this definitely helps pretty much everybody out on the team.
What I will say is taking a downgrade in the O line for the Steelers is not ideal. I don't think any Steelers fan should be like excited about this move. Obviously, it's better. Anything's better than Mason Rudolph. Um, but I mean, yeah, we've been kind of banking that this is going to happen. So it's nice to see it's happen. If I was a teammate in that Steelers locker room who was at all the all the camps leading up to this, I'd be a little bit salty looking at bro. Like, yeah, he was on your honeymoon and I was out here sweating, having to do up and downs and whatnot. But yeah, definitely intriguing to see happen.
Yeah, I think it was pretty interesting. I traded him in Dynasty thinking he was going to retire, but to see him sign with the Steelers was pretty interesting. And I think that DK Metcalf specifically I don't know if he's going to benefit as much as people are expecting. Rodgers hasn't played with like a pure physical wide receiver in a long time. So I'm interested to see how DK Metcalf handles having him.
Yeah, you said $10,000 to $15,000 at first before you corrected it to millions, and that is so much closer to what I'd be comfortable as a Steelers fan paying Aaron Rodgers. I'm fully on the he's cooked side. I want no part of Aaron Rodgers. I think that he is so far beyond washed. It's not even funny. I think that he might be better in the first few weeks than maybe like a Will Howard would have been. I'd rather see them give the full season to Will Howard. If I was a Steelers fan, I'd rather see a full season of Will Howard. Maybe we found something in the 6th round. Not excited about this at all. I'm downgrading all Steelers skill positions in fantasy. I think Aaron Rodgers blows.
I do have some intrigue in DK. I think that as gross as it is, I'm not talking about DK being a top 15 wide receiver to own, but I think as just a target share, George Pickens is not DK. DK has a level of his skill set that George doesn't. And I am kind of intrigued in redraft. I'm kind of intrigued to see how some mock drafts fluctuate after Aaron Rodgers signs. I do kind of like Will Howard sitting behind Aaron. Both play with timing, both play with accuracy. I don't think Will is anything crazy special, but if you were having a guy in front of Will, it would be Aaron Rodgers who would be beneficial. But on the contrary, Aaron's not much of a mentor to some of the young guys. I mean, the guys he's taken under his wing are like Zach Wilson, who ended up just hooking up with the moms. So not a great track record there, but yeah, definitely intrigued there.
We'll say this is the 3rd episode in a row that we've brought up George Pickens' name. So, I mean, Rose
We got it
got
right
get.
this time. Come
I
on.
know. Didn't even call him George Kittle. Yeah, he's getting a lot of airtime. Nick Chubb and J.K. Dobbins, 2 veteran running backs, both signed 1-year deals, both around $5 million. Chubb is going to the Texans, and Dobbins is going to the Broncos. To me, all the hype right now is around R.J. Harvey. He's kind of like the hotness right now for Dynasty coming into that Sean Payton offense. And to me, Dobbins doesn't really affect RJ Harvey. Dobbins is more of a big body guy that you put in on the goal line. He more kills if anybody had hope in Audric Estime still, which I mean, there's probably very few Audric Estime truthers out there, but if they're there, this is kind of a blow to them. And then Chubb with the Texans. Um, I don't really know what to make of this. This is kind of a true backup, and if Mixon falls apart, we might have two older running backs that don't really have it anymore, but have really big name value. Um, I don't. The Texans one, I would have to do more digging on, but Dobbins doesn't really move the needle. I'm curious what you guys think about those two.
Dobbins doesn't move my needle much with RJ Harvey. RJ's skill set is not what Dobbins brings at this age. Dobbins having 1,000 yards in 13 games is more of an insurance policy of the way they want to use RJ Harvey, get him in space. RJ Harvey had 28 touchdowns his senior year. RJ is going to be used in a dynamic way, and you can't roll into the season with four fumbles, Audric Estime, and I don't even want to say Jaleel McLaughlin's name, but I'm going to say his name anyways. But Nick Chubb with the Texans, man, like I know we've kind of spent our last 24 hours dogging on Micah as one does. Nick Chubb to the Texans is really intriguing. A team that wants to run the ball downhill. I've never been a Joe Mixon fan, and seeing some of these injury fear reports, I think it's a little bit of smoke right now. But Joe Mixon handled a heavy workload last year, and it could have been Chubb, it could have been anybody on the running back market right now. To see them continue to add running backs to this backfield is just scary. As a Joe Mixon owner would be. Now, obviously, I don't have any share of him. I would never touch Joe Mixon with a 10 feet pole. So
I actually flipped Joe Mixon away after getting him for dirt cheap, and I'm very happy I did that still. I flipped him right as he started dropping 9 and then I believe 7 points. But in terms of J.K. Dobbins signing with the Broncos, Braden, you are a true R.J. Harvey holder because I think Dobbins is going to have a bigger effect than I think you guys are kind of laying out. These two backs are only 15 months apart. Already has way too much tread on the tires. That's true.
15?
But yeah, 15 months apart. That's it.
Oh man.
Yeah, RJ Harvey is an old running back coming out of college. And I do see him being a stud. Don't get me wrong, I'm an RJ Harvey truther. But I think Dobbins is going to eat some of those shares enough to affect fantasy points.
Yeah, I'm definitely in an interesting position here. In our main league, I actually traded away the 110, which was going to be RJ Harvey, whoever picked it. So obviously I have a little bit of, happiness that J.K. Dobbins got signed, but in another dynasty league, I'm an RJ Harvey holder. So I think I kind of have a middle of the road take here. And I think what that is honestly like you'd rather not see them bring in a back of this caliber. I think that he's going to eat some work on first and second down. He's going to have probably, I'd say, somewhere in the 400 to 600 yards on the ground range this year, honestly. And that's obviously something you'd rather see going to RJ Harvey. However, at this point, RJ Harvey is a much better running back. I'm an RJ Harvey truther as well. There were a lot of great underlying metrics about him. I'm not super concerned about the age at all. In all honesty, he's still 24. If he came into the league last year and now he was turning 24, we'd be so extremely happy about his age. You know what I mean? And J.K. Dobbins last year, while he did, as you said, go over 1,000 yards, I'm going to attribute a lot of that to the scheme that we saw. Greg Roman offense. I think I think just what they wanted to do in that offense was pound the rock. They have some of the beef up front to do that, especially at the tackle position. We talk a lot about how those tackles are so good down there in LA. He had a lot of he was not one of the most efficient backs in the league last year. He was actually pretty poor from an efficiency standpoint. I'm not concerned about RJ Harvey. There's not a trade that I wouldn't have made yesterday with RJ Harvey involved that I would make today because of the J.K. Dobbins move. But I'm a little less excited for him. I'm a little less excited for what RJ Harvey could do from a redraft standpoint this year. Speaking on Nick Chubb a little bit, I also made a Texans backfield move earlier in this offseason. I actually acquired Chuba Hubbard for Nick Chubb. Shout out Jacob, man. We're going to talk about Jacob a little later when I get into some of my trade grades. And yeah, really, really love the work that Jacob does to really, put some other teams in advantageous situations. All that said, I think that Nick Chubb, I don't think anyone would argue that a healthy Nick Chubb is a much better running back than a healthy Joe Mixon. And however you feel about Joe Mixon, I think Joe Mixon is probably a little underrated at this point. He's been a solid efficiency back through his career. He's handled volume. I think that Nick Chubb is an amazing talent, and also what we know about him is that he is one of if he's one of the hardest workers in the league. If anyone could come back, if I had to bet on anyone to be able to come back from the adversity that Nick Chubb has faced, I would be betting on Nick Chubb. If we get 70% of what he was in his prime, he is absolutely going to be a threat to Joe Mixon's fantasy relevance this year. Wouldn't want to be a Joe Mixon holder. Shout out Micah.
Yeah, that trade was just crazy because Trevor was selling. He decided that last year wasn't his year, and so he sold to Jacob, who was buying to try to get a dynasty championship. Then they played in the first round, and Trevor beat Jacob. So that was kind of ironic. Great timing on that Joe Mixon trade there, Trevor. So Terry's holding out. Terry McLaurin's holding out. He wants a new contract, wants a new bag of money. He's turning 30 years old. There's been some rumors about the 49ers flipping Ayuk for McLaurin straight up. Those, it seems kind of just like a little bit of posturing. Um, I mean, this is the time of year where you have holdouts. Also, Trey Hendrickson's holding out. Shamar Stewart is holding out. We learned, Trevor informed us before this podcast that the Bengals are trying to put in a clause where if Shamar Stewart is hurt, they can cut him after 2 years, which is it hasn't happened before for a first rounder, and obviously Shamar is very against that. So he is holding out. So basically the entire Bengals D line, any hope they have on defense is not showing up to camp. Terry, I'm not too worried about. I would expect to get a contract, but the Bengals defense situation, it's quite honestly like they just need to sell the team because they're wasting prime Joe Burrow and prime Jamar Chase, and they're going to be a poverty franchise for a long time. So the defensive signings is more just like a Bengals take to me. Are any of you guys concerned about Terry holding out?
Not a doubt. I shout out to him. He's had so much adversity at the quarterback position in his career. He's a guy that if he had Trevor, I'm going to give you some flowers here. If he had Jaden Daniels for his whole career, he would be in the top 8 category at wide receiver. Truthfully, he can attack down the field. He can get you over the middle of the field. He can beat your number one corner. It is a hard age to hold out. It's like, what is this deal going to look like? If I was him, I'd be trying to get a 3-year north of what Jalen Waddle got. I think that that's just the fair asking price of what he got, what the Commanders got out of him last year. As far as the Bengals, I mean, there's not much to say. This is a laughing stock team when it comes to how they handle their players. If I was Trey Hendrickson, I'm not signing. Trade me. I'm not signing. I am fully confident I'm going somewhere else. I'm getting my bag. Obviously, Shamar, all the power to you. You're stuck there. Like there's nothing you can do. You got drafted there. Hold out, get the highest contract you can get at this stage. But yeah, if I'm Trey Hendrickson, I am not signing. I have no interest in being a Cincinnati Bengal.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how the Bengals are handling Shamar right now because or Shamar, yeah, Shamar
Shamar, yeah.
because even though I mean he was a first round pick and he doesn't have crazy injury history, but I think the Bengals just know that they're in such a difficult spot that they know that they're not going to be able to extend him in 3 years. Or what are they going to do if he gets hurt? Are they going to be able to trade him? Like it's a really difficult situation for the Bengals, but I also don't really care because young players deserve to get paid. They just went through college. Even though, like, yeah, they're getting paid now, that doesn't mean that they don't deserve their bag. They were drafted in the first round. This is a clear first. And Shamar, gosh, I'm never going to get that right, is definitely a first round talent. He was a phenomenal player in college. Um, Terry holding out, though, I have no worries about that. As a Jaden Daniels and a Terry McLaurin holder, no worries. There is no worry about the Adam Peters DNA of 49ers never paying their players. So I got no issue with that whatsoever. He's going to get the bag. I think he's going to get at least 28 a year over 3 years. That would be my guess.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say about the Bengals situation, we're all on the same page. Poverty franchise. I feel very comfortable saying that. What I said earlier today, this is not news to you guys, but something I said earlier today is if the Bengals would not have lucked into having the 101 in the Joe Burrow draft, they would be looked at how we looked at the Jaguars prior to this season, just kind of a perennially very poor team, poor ownership, just kind of in the dumps. You never really have hope for the Jaguars. And if they would have had the luck that led them into a couple of maybe Zach Wilson or Sam Darnold-esque quarterbacks, they would be talked about like the Browns, like the Browns have been for so long. It's ugly in Cincinnati. I think they get a lot of love, and they should because they have some superstars on that team that elevate them. Poverty franchise. A genuine a genuine sorry to Bengals fans. I do feel bad for you guys. It sucks you guys have to deal with that. From a Terry McLaurin perspective, I'm not concerned. I'm not worried from a fantasy perspective about what Terry looks like this year. I'm very bullish on Terry. I would love to own Terry right now. I'm not concerned about his age either. 29. I think he's got a few more very productive years in the NFL. Um, I agree with the holdout. I really do. I think that it's really rough to see a team that has new ownership. You went through all the years of the poor ownership, all the years of the bad quarterback. You stuck it out. You stayed down. You played your ass off and played very well. And now they come in, they spend up in the offseason to bring in a guy like Debo Samuel. They spend high, like a bunch of draft capital bringing in Laramie Tunsil. And you can't get a new contract. DK Metcalf signed his prior contract to the one he's on now. The same offseason they signed Terry McLaurin, he just touched $30 million. Terry McLaurin is a better wide receiver than DK Metcalf is. I would not touch a pen for less than $30 million if I was Terry McLaurin. And they need him. They need to be worrying about maximizing their year two starter, Jaden Daniels, who is, yeah, I mean, that's someone I'd love to have a little bit of discourse before we jump into the rest of it. Jaden Daniels is kind of a hotly debated topic. I see a Jalen Hurts jersey, and I made a trade and gave Jaden Daniels to Trevor, and what he describes as one of the fleeces of the league. And you want to talk about that a little bit? What do you think about Jaden Daniels?
Oh man, you mean the fleece of the league? Looking back at it and looking at it now, I mean, you're talking about a quarterback that you can argue that you're taking him over Josh Allen in a startup dynasty. You can
Well,
make
maybe
a
if you're
decent argument for
autistic, but
that.
maybe.
You could make an
Yeah,
argument for it.
you'd have to be smoking crack at a Circle K in Central Phoenix to believe that. Jaden
Look,
Daniels,
you're
I wouldn't.
all of the all of the praise to Jaden Daniels, what he did, what that entire organization did in 1 year, completely proved me wrong. Yeah, all the praise to him, but he is not Josh Allen. We saw CJ Stroud in his rookie year explode, looked almost perfect, won a playoff game, could have won a second if he didn't run into that Baltimore team and kind of go through a relapse. I have not changed my opinion on Cliff Kingsbury whatsoever. I think Dan Quinn played their team played like a Dan Quinn football team, win close games, make defensive stops. I mean, let's not forget they had two Hail Mary wins last year. I'm not sleeping on Jaden Daniels at this point, but I am going to take the under on whatever the Commanders win total is because I just don't think that it's replicable with as many close games. We see this every year. There's a team that wins a lot of close games that regresses because they don't have that. Yeah, but Jaden Daniels, yeah, all the praise to him. Definitely is a top five dynasty quarterback to own right now. Not taking him over Lamar, Josh, or Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts, but yeah, he's pretty quick after that.
Yeah, I would love to see Jaden Daniels behind that O-line. I think he would do some pretty insane things. I don't think there's any disagreeing there, but yeah.
I definitely got proved wrong quite a bit by Jaden Daniels, and that's a little bit why I brought it up. I fight hard to say I wasn't the fleece of the league. I got back two first, one of them early. I got back a second. I got back Keon. I'm happy with the haul, but I did want to take a second to give you your flowers, Trevor. You identified that you love Jaden Daniels from the start, and you absolutely have a top four bare minimum asset in dynasty fantasy football from a super flex perspective, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. I'm just and me and Zach have talked about this. We're both just glad we're not Justin in that scenario because Justin did get the royal fleece
That was a
on
three-way,
that
and yeah,
trade.
we did take him out back behind
That
the
was
woodshed for sure.
what did
Yeah.
I get? I honestly have forgotten about that trade. I didn't realize
I
I was
would
part of
too.
that trade.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you were the one that threw in Rasheed Rice just because I wanted him. I was like, yeah, I'll take Rasheed too.
Oh,
And you're
good.
like,
I mean,
man,
that's pretty
Justin,
bad.
Justin.
if I was Justin, I would drink to forget that trade. He definitely got taken out back, and didn't come
Oh,
back walking the same.
No.
yeah. Okay. So I got Kyron Keon in a first, and I gave up Rasheed Rice,
I got
Jaden
Keon.
Daniels in a third.
Man.
Oh,
Just a
oh, that
moment of
feels really
silence.
bad, dude.
That
Yeah.
will be in the Hall of Shame next to your Caleb Williams Bo Nix deal in about 12 months. So we'll come back to that one in 12 months.
Oh, we 100% will. We'll probably talk about it every single episode. I would not
Speaking
be
of
shocked.
uh, speaking of trades involving Rasheed Rice, I think we're all ready to move into trade talk. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Hmm.
Kick it
Awesome.
off.
So I did my trade grades. Usually I drop these trade grades in the chat, but I've held them back for this episode. Really excited to start doing that live every week. So we had two trades go down this week. We had one on the 5th between Jacob and Justin. I know you guys are excited to hear about this one, Jacob. You won't be excited to hear about the next one. So Jacob pulled down Isaiah Pacheco and a 2028 first that had originally belonged to him. And Justin pulled in Jonathan Taylor. My breakdown for Jacob, my grade for Jacob was a B minus. I said getting his own first back for Jonathan Taylor alone is probably just slightly less value than he's worth. He is a young stud running back. He is fairly, he has a lot of years left. He is uber talented. But it will be a while until Jonathan Taylor is able to put up the numbers perform as such again due to the very poor situation in Indianapolis. He replaces that production with a running back that maybe doesn't have as long a shelf life in Isaiah Pacheco, but he could very realistically outscore Taylor this year. And Taylor has very legitimate injury concerns. It's a savvy move by Jacob, but this trade overall is not a huge swing either way. Justin, I actually gave you a C plus on this, above average for picking up Jonathan Taylor. I said it's pretty average trade here. Plenty of worlds where this works out as a solid win in the long run. There could be a new regime and quarterback next year. Maybe Anthony Richardson somehow works out, and even just this year, a team that is a fringe contender. I think you're on the fringe. You're probably in the team 4, team 5 range. The fact that you strengthen your weakest room is valuable. I do think there's a high likelihood that 2 to 3 years from now, Justin will wish that he could take this trade back, but in the current situation, I co-sign it. Then after that trade went down, we had a second trade with Jacob involved where we got some classic JGJ. Jacob is going to Jacob. I'm going to move my camera so I can read what's on my screen. Um, so Tyler and Jacob engaged in a trade where Tyler picked up that same 2028 first that Jacob just got. And he got also a 2028 second from Jacob. I gave him an A for this trade. Jacob got back Rashee Rice. I gave him a D for this trade. For Tyler, I wrote Rasheed Rice is going to burn some people. I could be one of them. There's plenty of scenarios where he returns to 100% from the knee injury before the offensive chemistry favors Worthy and Royals. He may never get suspended and maybe miss a bunch more valuable time. But the fact is, Worthy and Royals are both more talented wide receiver prospects than Rice was. And I would say that the development we saw from him into someone who is a solid wide receiver talent, I think that's significantly attributable to role catering from the consensus best coach in the league and passes from the most efficient quarterback of all time. The road to Rasheed reclaiming that spot is highly unlikely. And that should have been baked into the price. It was not. A first round pick was rich. A second on top, I'm sure, had Tyler giggling and kicking his feet in the air, is what I wrote. And then grading Jacob on Rasheed Rice, I gave you a D. I got to move this because I can't see my screen. I apologize. I'm going to hold you right here for a second. Jacob D. Not only did you buy high at a time that made more sense to buy low, you did so in a fashion that completely went against the way you are building your team out. He's been collecting picks. He has 4 firsts in 2027. He's preparing to have to rebuild. Unless the hope is that after any injury and after a suspension, he will beat out players with roughly 2 years of a head start and return to form. Maybe then I could see it. But that's a scenario I'd be talking about if I was giving you a B plus for just spending a second round pick. The first on top of that is brutal. You did 2 trades in 2 days, and it felt like one step forward and 2 steps back for the future of your team. Sorry, Jacob.
Yeah, I said he was pretending to contend.
A pretender, a true
He
pretender.
he wasn't pretty. He wasn't very happy about that one. Um, I will say, so I traded for Pacheco at the beginning of last season. When he got hurt, I traded for him from Tyrell, and it really, really hurt because I was like this is going to be perfect. He's going to get back at the end of the year. My running back room's going to get an instant massive upgrade, and Pacheco's going to hopefully carry me to a dynasty championship. What ended up happening was I watched Kareem Hunt vulture touchdowns over and over, and Pacheco, and every time they would snap the ball, I'd be like, I don't think that's number 10 back there. Oh shoot, that's Kareem Hunt. Oh shoot, that's Kareem Hunt. Where is Isaiah Pacheco? And then he would show up like once in the third quarter and then he'd be gone again. So I was just worried that he was completely gone. I know Braden and I were talking about this, and he said he wasn't even sure he would offer like 10, 20 fab for Isaiah Pacheco. I think based off of what we saw last season, unless he has a big bounce back, which I'm not sure I want to bet on, I think it's a great trade. And with Taylor, what I'm hoping for is that he can be like a solid, maybe back end RB1, high end RB2 this year, and then pull a Saquon where he goes somewhere that will actually use him. And then he's 27 or 28 and he's maybe on the Chiefs or something. And then he can really go bananas and maybe have an almost 2,000 yard season and kind of like basically I want him to do what Saquon just did and hopefully give me a little bit of solid production to shore up my running back room this year. That's why I did that, and I will happily give up a first and a player that I think is cooked for that.
I really like the Jonathan Taylor trade for Justin. My grade on the trade was actually a little bit of the opposites of Zach. If you just flip them, I'd give Justin in the B range and Jacob in the C range. The reason I'm giving Justin a B is you can't buy a running back in that tier for this price. My instinct on Isaiah Pacheco is he is done. He is a extreme movement running back. We all know the memes of him literally wasting movement on every run. He did not look the same. He did not finish the year healthy. He is not recovering at a prime age to recover from that type of injury. I'm out on Isaiah Pacheco. I think that the team has told us that too. I talked about this last episode about how what is the team telling us? The team is telling us you draft an intrigue upside running back. Yes, it was the seventh round, but Brashard Smith, a lot of people are in on him. You sign Elijah Mitchell. Kareem Hunt was brought back. You have three competitions in the room. Now that's not to say Isaiah Pacheco sucks, but that's to say that we saw the way they have to rely on Pacheco moving forward is that he's not a high volume back. I think Jonathan Taylor, one of my favorite things about Jonathan Taylor is picture it with me. It's like week 16, week 17. Zach and I degenerate gambling on an early Sunday morning. We're looking at legs. We're trying to make a parlay. And I see Jonathan Taylor. His line is 29 and a half. And I'm like, there's no way he's hitting this. And Zach was like, in what world is he not? So we slammed it and he finished that game with like 33 carries. I think that's what Jonathan Taylor is. I like it. I like the move. I think we all know Jonathan Taylor, if Anthony Richardson gets the job and is healthy, has touchdown dependency on is Anthony Richardson going to take those in the red zone. But Jonathan Taylor's Jonathan Taylor. I'm with Justin here. I think that he can just go somewhere else in a year or two and be completely valuable. Obviously, a first is steep, but I don't think you can buy any running back in that tier for that price. The Rashid Rice deal is a little bit different. This is more of coming from a place where I am just so bought into Xavier Worthy. Zach is the worthy owner in our league. I'm sure you're going to agree with me here. What Worthy did at the end of the year is he wasn't just kind of the end around explosive or get in space guy that he was in the beginning of the year. He truly broke out. Zach has a bunch of data he can share if he'd like, but I'm just so in on Xavier Worthy and a name you guys didn't mention. Not a massive name, but it's a name to mention. Hollywood Brown still being there. Hollywood Brown's still there. Xavier Worthy is the true one. Um, and Royals. I'm not fully at the place where I'd say Royals is a better prospect. I liked Royals. I think they're in the same tier, being Rasheed and Royals. But when you hear the coach literally say insurance when talking about that, they know there's a suspension coming. And any snaps away from the team right now, we saw how like dangerous that was for Rasheed Rice's stock. Or Rasheed is 25 a game, gets hurt. We get to the end of the year, they make a Super Bowl run because Xavier Worthy stepped into the wide receiver one role. And yes, there was some garbage time plays in the Super Bowl, but you saw exactly how he leveled up. And he's 22 years old. I'm out on Rasheed Rice for this price. If Rasheed Rice was a second, maybe. I think it's
Richardson,
worth taking that. But a first and a second, it's like, whoa, very steep.
Richardson's already hurt. He got hurt in day two of OTAs. It's a throwing shoulder injury.
We
Um,
should have hit that in the news cycle, honestly.
I
That's
know.
big.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, they're hoping he's going to be back for the start of training camp and he'll be on a pitch count, which basically means if his shoulder's cooked, and that's not how you improve your accuracy with a shoulder that you don't trust, that hurts really bad. So it kind of looks like it's Daniel Jones, which doesn't that I mean that's not like, oh man, Jonathan Taylor to the moon now. Um, but I would
We
hope
saw
that,
Saquon with Daniel Jones. We remember
yeah,
what it
we
looked like
did.
when Saquon was Daniel Jones. So
Maybe he'll do better without Joe Shane. We'll see. Okay.
Yeah, so the trade, my just a quick opinion on Rashee Rice as somebody that moved off of Rashee Rice this offseason in order to get Saquon. I also think Rashee Rice is done. I'm completely out on him. Worthy solidified the fact that he is not a one-dimensional wide receiver. And I think that was kind of the knock on him when he came into the league. Like, oh, why are they getting the speedster? Like, they're just getting the guy that broke the record. That's all he really is. He'd be a second round pick if he didn't break the record, blah, blah, blah. I don't really think that was true. He clearly showed that he could be a wide receiver one under one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So now I'm excited to see it. I think Rashee Rice is going to get suspended. I don't see those legal troubles totally washing away. And even if he doesn't, the idea that he could come back at that form is just like what Braden and Zach touched on. It's just not going to happen.
I think when we look at the mental landscape is catastrophic knee injury. I mean, you couldn't have a worse knee injury for Rasheed. And watching the guys in front of you thrive, succeed. We saw it with Deshaun. Now, Deshaun Watson is the worst human to ever play football, arguably. But we saw it with Deshaun. The mental aspect off the field took him out on the field. I don't see Rasheed Rice getting back to that. I think we're going to see some Rasheed Rice spike games. But in a year where you have three other wide receivers in this room, and we know what Kansas City likes to do with their wide receiver 5, 6, tight end 2, 3, and 4, is they utilize them. You're not going to be able to predict when who gets used, but like I don't see a path to the volume Rasheed was so dominant at. Rasheed Rice was the typical PPR wide receiver, 7 catches, 75 yards, and maybe he gets the touchdown. He's not going to be that anymore. And I think that buying Rasheed for a first and second is pretty brutal. I also just want to say, Trevor saying one of the best quarterbacks, like I think we should all be at that point where I know he just lost the Super Bowl, but Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback, especially when we're talking about dynasty. People just eat in his offense, and Xavier Worthy is the wide receiver one in that offense.
Well, don't forget about Jaden Daniels. He could totally be better than Patrick Mahomes. We don't know yet.
He already is. He already is. What are you
Yeah,
talking
he's already
about?
way better, bro. Who's
Put him
Tom
on that
Brady
team. We'll
anyway?
see. I'm just,
Tom what?
I will never go to that level. I will say he is the best quarterback in the NFC East, though.
Oh, buddy.
I will say that.
I might agree. I don't fully know, but I might agree.
Yeah, before we cut this and go to the mock draft, I just want to say, Trevor, officially, thank you for the jersey. Trevor and I made a jersey bet in the championship. We made this bet probably, Trevor, correct me if I'm wrong, but probably like week 6 or 7. Phone call. Hey Trevor, like we're both winning, like we're both playoff teams right now. If we make the championship, let's put another jersey on the line. So when I ended up winning, sweaty this last year. I did play Trevor in the fantasy championship. So I got my Jameer jersey because I kind of had to, but I also got my Jalen Hurts jersey.
Did you really play
With
him?
Jalen Hurts Super Bowl jersey, mind I tell you, Super Bowl MVP, mind I tell you. Yeah, that one was just a little bit of a personal win that I couldn't let being on a podcast with Trevor slip by.
See, I mean, you kind of played him,
That's
but Mr. Under 100, I mean, it wasn't really a game.
Oh
I'll take
man.
second place scoring under 100. I'll take it. And in a retool year, I'll take that as well. After I sent away Patrick Mahomes, sent away Joe Mixon, sent away Sam Darnold for CJ Stroud and 2 firsts, I will
You sent away
absolutely take
Sam
it.
Darnold. Oh man,
I'll
he
absolutely take
took
it.
it
Hey,
down.
Sam Darnold on the Seahawks is a little just a like that intriguing. That
If you're a
intriguing.
Seahawks
They're
fan,
t-
yeah.
If you're a
They're
Seahawks
talking about
fan.
him in camp. I think we know exactly what Sam Darnold is.
Yeah,
He's a
he's their starting
placeholder.
quarterback.
He's a guy that's going to absolutely run a Kubiak offense. Mike McDonald's talking about him a lot. So nobody out here should be excited about Sam Darnold. He is a downgrade comparatively to Geno Smith, but at the same time, it's there's the room for development. I mean, Sam Darnold took steps last year. We could go on and on about it, but I had to get through this segment with giving Trevor a little bit of shit.
Sounds
There you go.
good. Probably about time to take a break, and then we'll be right back with a mock draft for you.
All right, welcome back. We're going to jump into our mock draft. First one of the year. It is a one quarterback, two running back, two receiver, two flex, tight end, and we'll only go three benches. This is the main redraft league that we all play in. We have five benches and a kicker and a defense on it, but we don't really need to draft that for our purposes. Doing a mock draft. Okay. All right, I have the draft board pulled up. Zach is at pick one. And then I am at pick five. Trevor is at pick 10, and Braden is at pick 12. In our real draft, we already have our order set, and I'm at pick 11. But for the sake of the mock draft, we decided we wouldn't go 10, 11, 12, and then leave all the middle picks just to be auto picked. And it's kind of nice to have somebody at the first overall pick.
It's going to be an easy first overall pick for sure. If I think Braden, you have to hit start because I think you started the room. But if we're ready, yeah, I can jump into that if you want to put me on the clock.
Right.
All right, we're live. Jamar Chase for me. Saquon Barkley's a great pick here. I'm okay with it. I like to build my teams out a little more zero RB. Obviously, that didn't look good last year. Last year was a heavy outlier as far as games missed by RB1s. Jamar Chase, great situation, great player. He's going to get volume. The offense is going to be good. It's very easy for me to take Jamar Chase off the board and make him my wide receiver one.
After Jamar Chase goes Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, and CeeDee Lamb. So coming up next for me, I mean, it's a pretty easy. Well, I mean, it's really just about position that you want at this point. And to me, oh, now that I'm saying it, it's tough. But to me, it's pretty easily Justin Jefferson. I think even with the slight concerns that people have with JJ McCarthy, he's just such a good player, and he's been such a good player every year. Um, and I don't see that changing. We've doubted him once before, and he put up an absolutely monster season. So I'm gonna go with Justin Jefferson at pick five. And Jameer, Puka, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nico Collins at 109. So a nice little receiver run. And Trevor's on the clock at pick 10.
This is not how I wanted the board to fall. I was hoping that either Jameer, which is a stretch, or Puka would fall to me. But in this case, I'm completely comfortable with the reach. Not, I wouldn't even call it a reach, but I'm gonna go ahead and take Malik Neighbors here. Malik Neighbors, I think, even though he has some off the field stuff sometimes in that quarterback room is a little bit rough, he showed that he can ball with just about anybody at quarterback, and he is an absolute stud. He showed that he is a top 10. You can make an argument for a top seven receiver in the league, like at this moment.
That's fine.
Love the pick. Derrick Henry was who I wanted to be at my pick. But I am going to end up taking Brian Thomas because I do
Great
love the
pick.
upside swing. I just think that when I look at some of the other wide receivers on the board, the only one I'm considering is Drake London. But man, I'm just all in on Brian. I'm tempted to take Brock. I'm tempted to look elsewhere, but I am just going to go with my gut here, and I'm going to take Ashton Genty. I think that we're going to get into a stretch at some point this year where he is 25 carries and a touchdown magnet.
With me on the wrap, I was hoping for either Brian Thomas or GNT, so great picks, Braden. But at the end of the day, I did plan for this, and I'm going to go ahead and take Drake London, even though
Great
the
pick.
running back dead zone is coming up at 4 through 7, and maybe get one at 3, maybe get one at 4 or 5. But Drake London is just too good of a player to pass up right now. Super underappreciated. Think he's going to ball with Penix.
Great pick. After Trevor's pick of Drake London went McCaffrey, AJ Brown, Bucky, who I think is being drafted too high, Devon Achane at 207, and I'm back on the clock. So I have Justin Jefferson to start it out. So I would just looking at the players on the board, I would like to have. I would like to look at running back. If I were to look at running back, it would probably be Josh Jacobs, maybe Jonathan Taylor. Got Ladd, Josh Allen. I think I'm to start it off. Mock drafts at this time of the year are about kind of having fun, going random directions, see where you end up. So I think I'm going to take Josh Allen just to throw a little wrench into it, to see how my depth shakes out later in the draft.
All right, I am back on the clock here, and I'll use my clock to speak before pick and make sure everybody has their full three. At this point in the draft, I'm not worried about positional value. I'm kind of building my core now before I worry about filling spots. I kind of want to take the best player available. Trey McBride's on the board. I think he is the best tight end in this year's draft. I think he finishes tight end one. It's a little spoiler. I don't see any running backs I like. Top running backs, don't see any wide receivers I like. The top wide receivers on the board are a Seahawk Gross, and then Tyreek Hill, which we've already discussed being out on T. Higgins. And I am going to go with a running back here, is what I meant to say. I like Chase Brown here. Chase Brown had such a wonderful finish to last year. If he would have had the second half of the season, if he would have had the role all season, I think he would be an easy first round pick this year. He got little to no competition in the draft. They didn't take Taj Brooks until the sixth round. They are confident in Chase Brown. I'm going to take Chase Brown. Again, I am super stacked on the Bengals right now, but on the weeks where the Bengals are good, that's going to look good for me. I'm going to win weeks when the Bengals are rolling. So I took him. I'm back up on the clock here. Don't really want to go another two full rounds being on the wrap without grabbing another wide receiver, but nothing is really jumping off the board as something I want to take. And I already kind of spoke a little about how I think Trey McBride is. I think he's going to be the tight end one this season. He commanded heavy volume last year, especially down the stretch. I think that I've spoken a little bit how I don't believe that Marvin Harrison is the game breaking wide receiver one that we wanted him to be when he came out. He's more of a ultimately refined, like very good route runner and all that, but he doesn't have game breaking speed. He's not extremely physical at the catch point. He's not an elite contested catch wide receiver. So I think that in that scenario where I think Trey McBride could end up getting the most volume on the team, I want a piece of that at the tight end position. Give me a week to week advantage. I'm going to take Trey McBride at 301.
JSN, Tyreek Hill, Garrett Wilson go off the board right after him. So running backs, I mean this to me is kind of a slam dunk pick. So I already have Jefferson and I have Allen. I don't really want to get past the third round without grabbing a running back. And to me, it's pretty clearly Kyron Williams is at the top of my board here. Um, he's gonna get a lot of work. He's gonna get an extension. Zach's shaking his head. He obviously is not a huge
Brees right
Kyron guy.
there. Brees
I
is right
know,
there.
I know, I know. Brees potentially in consideration. It's just that Jets offense with Justin Fields. I don't think he's going to get as many checkdowns as Kyron with old Matthew Stafford. Kyron did run pretty hot on touchdowns last year. Um, I don't really see that changing a whole lot. I mean, he might have some regression, but he's the dude. Sean McVay. One thing I love about Sean McVay is if it's Todd Gurley, there was a stretch of time where Darrell Henderson was a workhorse. Um, Kyron is the workhorse, and until he breaks, it it's pretty much just an auto pick of Kyron right here. So after Kyron went Lamar, Brees Hall, T. Higgins, McLaurin, and Trevor's on the clock right after McLaurin went.
So the pick here is quite obvious, even though the running backs at this tier aren't phenomenal. You're talking about running backs that could make or break your season, like James Cook, Kenneth Walker. Even though I love Kenneth Walker when he's healthy as a Seahawks fan and as a Kenneth Walker holder. But the obvious choice here is Jaden Daniels. We're looking at possibly the quarterback one in, and I don't think that that's really difficult to say, especially when the next quarterback on the board. I could get Jalen Hurts on the wrap, but why risk it and then get a lower end running back when I can solidify my quarterback position with Jaden Daniels?
Devontae
All
Adams and Braden's on
right.
the clock.
All right, Trevor, I was going to tell you get prepared to spit on it, but obviously you beat me to it. So I'm looking at the board and I am seeing Mike Evans, Marvin at the top of the wide receiver board, and I'm not super intrigued on Mike Evans. I'm gonna end up taking Marvin here just because of the sheer volume, I believe. And I'm gonna look at another position. I'm actually gonna take the better quarterback in the NFC with Jalen Hurts. And the reason I'm gonna take Jalen Hurts is because of the sheer upside, is that he's going to have a 35 a couple times a year. And those games with the core of Brian, Marvin, Genty, I just think is gonna set me apart.
Fourth round is way too late for Jalen Hurts. Absolutely cosign.
I can agree with that. Yeah. And I just don't see a world where you could take Hurts over Daniels. The board, when we actually draft with Sweaty, is not going to fall like this. Hurts will be
Don't see
gone
a
in the third
world.
round. Daniels will be gone in the second round. That's just how it's going to lay because at the end of the day, the people that we draft with no ball. And that's just how it is. Like, there's no way that somebody is drafting T. Higgins or Terry McLaurin before they grab Jaden Daniels,
I don't
or
know.
even Jalen Hurts for that aspect, or Marvin.
M Micah's
Marvin.
gonna Micah.
Micah's going to Micah. You never know with
Amen.
Micah. Yeah, but
Micah
this
would be
is,
looking at Mike Evans, Alvin Kamara. Think of anybody north of
Rasheed
30.
Rice.
Think of anybody north of 30 at this point. They're proven, they're tested. I see that questionable tag next to Joe Mixon's name, and I know he's not scared of it. He's clicking Joe Mixon at this point.
he's clicking Joe Mixon, and
He's
that's
drafting the
exactly why I'm looking
2019 Dream
at.
Team.
Oh, yeah, dude. 2019, you got Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara. You're killing it. You're a thug. But this isn't 2019. So because of that, I'm going to have to do kind of a super reach on running back. And I'm actually taking Amari and Hampton. I think he's going to be an absolute stud. I hate saying that as a Najee Harris owner, but I'm willing to reach rather than wait for a running back to come to me. He's in the fourth round. This is the dead zone for running backs. I understand that. Don't think he's going to be involved in that.
So I will say, mm, yeah, I mean Kenneth Walker, he's obviously in the running. Kamara, Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, I mean he's old. He fell apart over the back half of last year. That's not a bet I want to make. Honestly, as far as older running backs go, I think Alvin Kamara is going to get so many passes this year. Whether it's
I wanted
Spencer
him.
Rattler or Tyler Shuck, he's gonna be the safety outlet of all safety outlets. He's gonna break. I mean, I don't even know how many targets to put him at, like 100. I don't know. He's gonna get so many. It's ridiculous. This one isn't super hard to me. It might have been a little bit harder if Chuba was there, but I mean, Kamara's way. Actually, that's not true. Kamara's above. In redraft, Kamara's significantly above Chuba for me. So it's a pretty easy pick of Alvin Kamara.
Nice pick. I like that. Go ahead.
I love the Alvin Kamara pick there, just to give you a little bit of shine on Alvin Kamara. I just think that this is an offense that is not built to stretch the field. And I think when you have an offense like that, Kamara's literally going to do exactly what he did last year, 5 to 7 checkdowns a game, with a better quarterback, a better offensive line, an offensive line that can push the ball down the field. So I think we could see him get back to a little bit more. I've thought about trying to go get him in our Sweaty Dynasty League just as a 1 year push, but yeah, I love the Kamara pick.
I was going to get on you a little bit if you didn't take a running back there because Kyron is, in my opinion, one of the most overrated players in Dynasty football right now. He is extremely touchdown dependent and he's bound for regression.
It's
I
Kyron's
will
redraft,
cooking.
so it's fine. I'm
Yeah,
not.
but oh yeah, that's right. This is redraft. But at the end of the day, like I still don't see him repeating in that aspect.
That's fair.
My mind's
I
always on Dynasty.
I am I'm very glad you guys spent some time speaking into my pick because I'm a little I really thought Kamara would be there for me, and then Kenneth Walker went a pick before me. Kenneth Walker would have been a sprint the card in guy for me. Niners fan, obviously, I'll give the Seahawks hate where it's due, but Kenneth Walker is an absolute stud of a running back. I think he's going to excel in the Kubiak system. So what I'm looking at here now is I really feel as if I need to leave with another wide receiver here. And I have the wide receiver one. I have Jamar Chase. I have a lot of stealing there. What I need to be making sure of now is I have a little bit of floor in my offense. I have a little bit of week to week security here. So really what I'm looking at here for this pick is I'm looking at a lot of Devonta Smith. I think that he's safe for a few targets every week. He can give you that 10 to 15 range on a fairly consistent basis. I'm looking at Chris Olave a little bit. I've spoken on this pod before about how I'm a huge Chris Olave guy at this point. I think we're getting a very steep discount on him, also being a Tyler Shutt guy. So I really have to make that decision. And since I do have Jamar Chase, I'm going to go a little bit more risk averse here. Make sure I have a team that can really carry me down the stretch. And I'm going to take Devonta Smith here. I think
Oh,
that. Oh, you don't like it?
no, it was good. I wanted him.
Oh, you wanted him. Okay, yeah. I love Devonta Smith here. You have a little bit of contingent upside here. If AJ Brown goes down, he could absolutely vault himself into being honestly a top 10 wide receiver. I love getting him to round out my wide receiver room. And then obviously it was a little hard to pick my next wide receiver. I think that I want to finish my running back room because there is a guy I'm looking at, a guy we've spoken about at length on this podcast. RJ Harvey still being here. I'm going to go ahead and grab RJ Harvey and just feel like I have a really dominant starting wide receiver and running back room.
So after Zach picked RJ Harvey at the 502, DK Metcalf, Sam Laporta, David Montgomery, and then I'm back on the clock. I was hoping Metcalf would fall to me. Um, with Rodgers officially signing, I think Rodgers is just gonna, even if you don't think he's great, it's kind of a situation where he's just gonna chuck at DK Metcalf an absurd amount. And so I think DK is an absolutely great pick. So kind of where I'm sitting with my team right now, I have Jefferson. So I obviously have a great wide receiver one. Allen, quarterback is set. Kyron and Kamara. I would like, just kind of looking at the board, I would like to get a wide receiver two to kind of start filling out my receiver room a little bit more. Some options I would be looking at probably Cortland Sutton, maybe Jamison Williams. I think maybe George Pickens. I don't or Olave. Um, Not super in on Pickens. I think he's being a little bit overvalued right now. Sutton, I really like Bo Nix. I think Sutton might be a little bit old for my liking here. Zay Flowers. I think I'm going to go upside with Jamison Williams just because I have a locked and loaded receiver one, and I think going for upside behind him. If everything hits and I have Allen quarterback one, Jefferson could be the quarterback one. If I get a top five, top 10 year out of Jamison Williams because he goes absolutely nuclear, then I think that's a year that I would love to have this team. So I'm gonna go Jamison Williams, kind of get balanced, get my wide receiver two. Then Hawkinson goes at the 506, Mixon, Zay Flowers, team eight. This is some ultimate. This isn't gonna how the draft is gonna shake out. If you look at team eight, they have gone St. Brown, AJ Brown, T. Higgins, Rashee Rice, and Zay Flowers. So they've gone five receivers to start off the draft. That probably won't happen, but with that being said, Trevor's on the clock.
It's a bold move to take five receivers in a row, but you know what? I respect it. We got two flex spots. Why not? Not the way I'm doing it, but I am taking another receiver here because these running backs just don't excite me. Pacheco, absolutely not. James Conner is good, but we talked about it earlier on this podcast. Xavier Worthy's a player I'm not passing on this year. He's going to be an absolute stud. He's going to continue to take that wide receiver one role, and with better receivers coming in like Hollywood Brown and Royals, there's going to be a lot less pressure on him. I think he's going to explode this year.
I think Xavier Worthy is an awesome pick. I would have taken Xavier Worthy before I touched Jamison Williams. But
Amen.
I'm looking at the board and I'm seeing quite a bit of value at my pick. So I'm going to take some time and chat a little bit before I take my picks. The guy I'm looking at is obviously Jalen Waddle. We've given him some love on this podcast. I think that we're all regressing on Tyreek Hill. Only allows you to increase interest on Jalen Waddle. I am also looking at Tedero McMillan. I think he's going to see a pretty big target share from the get-go. So I am going to be taking Tedero McMillan with this pick. I'm just going to stray away from the chance that Tyreek Hill has a little bit of juice, especially earlier in the year. So I'm going to take Tet very early. And then I am looking at the board and I'm saying there is a little bit of a running back gap here. I cannot leave this pick being the 12th pick without drafting positional need. Haven't really drafted positional need until this point. So I am going to reach on a guy. I'm going to take a guy who I believe in the direction of the offensive line. I believe in the team that's going to run the ball, this ability. I believe in the home run ability, that there are going to be some weeks where he sees big touchdown plays. Give me Travion Henderson with the Patriots.
Big surprise there. I was thinking that you were going to take my guy, but you didn't. And this is a guy that me and Braden have talked about off camera and all the time. We've texted about him, everything. Quinshaw Judkins. He's going to be touching the ball 20, 25 times a game. He does have a lot of tread on his tires from college. I'm a little bit worried about that. But with the split from last year, I think he's going to just do fine. And honestly, the Browns, they don't have a quarterback, even though they have four. So I'm expecting him to do very well, and he's going to get a lot of drop-offs if he's dealing with a rookie or if he's dealing with old Joe Flacco.
I do like the Quinshawn pick. The reason I ended up sticking with Travion is I think one, he has bigger playability. Two, I think that the Patriots are in more games than the Browns are. And I think when you're in more games like that, your running back has the chance to explode and have the bigger run plays. I do like Quinshawn more as a prospect, but Travion in a redraft standpoint, I just think that Cleveland is not going to be in games, and I think New England will. So give me Travion Henderson there.
Some great picks. I'm back on the clock. James Conner, Mahomes, Pacheco, and Waddle went right before me. We've talked up Waddle, like Braden said. I think Waddle would have been in pretty strong consideration here. I have some guys that are higher in my ranks that I'm going to play the game, see if they come back to me. Looking at tight end, I mean, it's Kelsey, Jonnu, Mark Andrews, Evan Ingram at the top of ADP. This is kind of, to me, I haven't gotten Hawkinson, Kittle. Well, actually, my top three are kind of in their own tiers: Bowers, McBride, and Kittle. Once I don't get those guys, I kind of just punt the position. I might take some guys at the end, but I think those guys have a positional advantage, and outside of that, there really isn't much. Um, my team's pretty balanced right now with Jefferson, JMO, Kyron, and Kamara, and then Josh Allen at quarterback. Um, See, a guy that I really like that I think is pretty criminally underrated, and I don't know if he would actually make it back to me, is, oh, which one do I go with? So I'll just tell you who I'm picking between. I'm picking between Chris Godwin and Jacoby Myers. Um, I think I'm gonna pick Jacoby Myers just because there is an injury concern there. Um, Man, that's tough. Am I gonna pick? Oh man, am I gonna pick? Oh man, I'm up against a wall and I don't know who I want to actually pick. So let's switch it up and go tight end. No, I'm kidding. I think I'll go Jacoby Myers. I think he's just a solid pick.
What a build out from you, Justin. This is some wild work here. I'm looking at your team thinking I could trade my next five picks, then auto draft out and probably beat you every week of the season, honestly. I'm not loving the build, I'm not gonna lie. I love the Kamara pick, and that's I guess you can't hate Jefferson and Allen at the top, but man, Jacoby Myers here is blowing my gourd a little bit.
I like
Oh.
the Jacoby Myers. Justin, don't let him talk to you like that. This is redraft. Jacoby Myers is going to see heavy volume. I like Jacoby Myers here. Some other guys I would have taken, but I do like him as a fantasy asset in a redraft.
Then
Since
goes
we're
it.
talking about guys, sorry, since we're talking about guys you like, Braden, this one's an easy one for me. I really love the way this draft is shaken out for me. I don't usually try necessarily to fill my position rooms or set myself a safe floor. You're playing to win, you're not playing for second place, but I feel like I've kind of done that organically, and this allows me to really chase upside at this point and take some stabs and really go best player available. So I'm looking at a guy named Roma Dunze here. Braden, you're a huge truther. He is. I talked a little bit off screen about how much I love Luther Burden and what I think he brings to this offense. Roma Dunze is very comfortably the most talented wide receiver in Chicago. We've talked at length on this podcast about what Ben Johnson brings to that offense, what we think year two of Caleb is going to look like. Getting Roma Dunze to be my wide receiver three, if he was my wide receiver two, I'd be telling myself stories about how I could win the league this year. Having him at wide receiver three, I feel fantastic. I got a little bit of tunnel vision when I was looking at him, so now I got to look at the board a little bit. There's two guys that I want to highlight a little bit just to kind of get a takeoff. You know, we have Caleb Johnson and Jalen Warren right here. They're two spots apart in ADP here. So it really kind of tells you the market doesn't really entirely know who the starter is going to be. So that's an interesting place to look. And Arthur Smith offense is going to run the ball a lot. But again, I just don't really want to bet on offense that I don't believe in. I don't want to bet on a running back in an offense that I don't believe in. So I'm looking around. I'm seeing DeAndre Swift. He's very intriguing here at this point. I think he's probably the guy. I'm also, contrary to the punting on tight end, I'm in the same place for quarterback, if you're not getting one of the big four, if you're not getting Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, I'm going to chase upside in the later rounds. I'm going to be able to stack a guy like a Chase Brown, Trey McBride with someone who I think could get close to that production later, where the people who are going in those later rounds are not going to get anywhere close to those guys from a skill position standpoint. So I'm not even looking at quarterback yet. Not really even close. Really, I don't. I'm really making big bets on offenses here, but I am going to go DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is someone who's an interesting conversation to have. I'm obviously wearing a Derrick Henry jersey. Me and Trevor here, we have a bet that started last season on DeAndre Swift versus Derrick Henry, who will score more fantasy points over the next 3 seasons. Obviously, Derrick Henry has about a 100 point lead right now, and he was taken in round one, whereas I'm getting DeAndre Swift to kick off the seventh. So you know how I'm feeling about that bet, big Derrick Henry guy. All that said, I'm betting on upside here in a Ben Johnson offense. He catches passes. That's something I really, really love in my running backs in a PPR format. So I'm going to go DeAndre Swift, chase some upside here. Again, they didn't add anything really meaningful in the draft. Give me all the DeAndre Swift here.
I totally get it though. The Derrick Henry trade was an all-time fumble, and I still do believe in DeAndre Swift. I have no plans on moving him, even though Zach, you are one of the people that has messaged me about him this offseason.
I believe.
I still think that he is a solid option. I don't think that you put a bottom 10 offensive line in front of a running back that's 26 years old 1,300 yards later and you say, yeah, we need to go aggressively get a running back. They tried in the draft, they didn't, and I think that they're comfortable that they didn't.
I don't
I really do like the DeAndre Swift pick there. I think you just look at volume. You don't really have a guy that's going to test him unless Swift is battling injuries, which Swift has in his career. But I think you just look at sheer volume. We don't really know who Chicago's red zone weapon is. Um, their offense was one of the worst red zone offenses we've seen in the last 10 years. So I think that you look at the way that this Chicago offense wants to attack. DeAndre Swift in the seventh is an absolute steal, and a little bit of some Roma Dunze praise. Absolute steal.
Yeah, I think if you look at the draft, it was just kind of one of those things where every single time they were up to pick, there was a running back or two picked right ahead of them, and so I don't think that they were really in on Swift. I've been out on Swift the entire offseason, but after they got out of the draft with no running backs, you volume is king for running backs, and DeAndre Swift is just going to have so much volume. And if we believe, like we've all talked about, we believe in this Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, Bears offense. And so if you believe in their offense and they have one good running back, then you have to believe in that one good running back. And for a dynasty perspective, I think they go out and replace him next year just because I think they get mediocre production out of him this year, and then say they have a pretty good year and they're picking at 20 and they pick the best running back in next year's class that drops to 20, or maybe it's the second best or the third best if we have some elite guys. I think he's gone next year, but for this year, it's a great pick. So Zach was already talking about Caleb Johnson at his pick. I'm going to pick him here. I think he's a great running back. For Aaron Rodgers, he's older. He's going to check it down. Um, he's going to have work. I think he's gonna take over that backfield and be really good. I'm not a big Jalen Warren guy, so Caleb Johnson's a fairly easy pick for me here. And I think to add some youth to my running back room that consists of Kyron and Kamara right now, two old guys that could be snapped by week two, to have a little bit of rejuvenation, if you will, I think is a useful thing for my team. After
Yeah, not a
Caleb
bad pick
goes
at all. I think,
after
sorry.
Caleb goes Jordan Addison, Travis Kelce in the seventh round, which is it's crazy thinking about him from a couple years ago to be like, oh yeah, 707, and he wasn't even in consideration for my pick. And then Khalil Shakir, Baker Mayfield, and Trevor is back on the clock. So just really quick, Trevor's team right now, he has three receivers, Malik, Drake London, and Xavier Worthy. Two rookie running backs with Amarian Hampton and Quinshon Judkins, and he has his quarterback of the future, the self-proclaimed best quarterback in the division, Jaden Daniels.
So the running backs here really aren't exciting, even though I am picking two rookie running backs at 4 and at 6 here in the fourth and the sixth round. I'm not excited about Brian Robinson. I think he could repeat what he did last year, which again is not going to get me to a championship at the end of the day. Looking at the wide receivers as well, Calvin Ridley, not touching him. I'm glad that I moved off of him. I believe it was 2 years ago in our Dynasty League, and I don't think his production in redraft is going to be much better. I'm actually going to be taking Jonnu Smith here, and the reason for that is because even though that Miami offense scares me, and Tua scares me, and Jalen Waddle being a pretty solid wide receiver one with Tyreek Hill absolutely tanking as of, last year, and it will continue this year as well. Jonnu Smith was the tight end four. And you have to start a tight end every single week. And I'd rather take somebody who, even though he's been in trade discussions recently, I'd rather take somebody who has a chance to produce at the position.
All right. I am sitting at the board after Najee Harris gets taken, and I am going to go a little bit of a fun route. So we've talked about how mock drafts are kind of the time to have fun. Is I'm going to lean into two different perspectives. My first pick here is going to be Brandon Ayuk, and the reason being is my wide receiver room, as it shapes up, has Brian Thomas, Marvin, Tet. We can all tell ourselves a story of how those guys do not reach their full ADP. Tet, rookie. Panthers often struggles. Marvin Harrison, we see a little bit of the repeat struggles last year, the game speed being a little bit higher. I'm going to take Brandon Ayuk. I'm going to take another upside swing. I think that with Ricky Pearsall missing some time, I think with just the shape of that offense, I'm going to bet Brandon Ayuk is going to get back to the same level he was. And if not, I feel pretty good about taking him at the end of the seventh. And I'm going to get gross here, and I am predicting getting roasted for. And I want to plead my case before I take this pick. So one of the training camp news of the last 48 hours that we did not make into our chat was Kenneth Walker is dealing with a hamstring injury already. So I think a few of you guys know where I'm going with this. And I'm going to take Zach Charbonnet here, and let me tell you why. Um, Zach Charbonnet, incredibly efficient. Zach Charbonnet was meant for the inside and outside zone scheme, which Clint Kubiak is a specialist in. I think that this offense with Abe Lucas fully healthy, their offensive line is built to maul, and I think that this team really wants to play action. I'm going to take Zach Charbonnet, and it's not a sexy pick. It's an eighth round pick. I'm looking at guys on the board who I like I do like Calvin Ridley from a redraft standpoint. I'm looking at Evan Ingram. I do really like him. There's some other guys, but there's not quite anyone at the running back position that I'm thinking there's a route where this guy sees 5 to 7 weeks this year where he could be 20 a game. And I'm going to take Zach Charbonnet here. I think it's a little bit of a reach. By a little bit, I think it's a lot. You look at some of the projection of the guys around him, 400 yards rushing. It's not a very exciting projection, but I just think there is a world where Zach Charbonnet is starting a lot. Kenneth Walker cannot stay healthy. He's proved that time and time. When he saw the field last year, he was 15 to 20 a game, especially against Justin in the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay, Brayton, could you pause the draft? We are going to take one more break and we'll be back. Just kick off Trevor's pick in the eighth round. All right, we're back. 8:03. Trevor is on the clock.
So I really liked Zach Charbonnet. I really liked him. I'm not excited to see Kenneth Walker. As a Seahawks fan, I'm not excited to see him struggling with an injury already, especially with how injury prone he is. But right now, I feel like this running back zone is not a place because they're guys that aren't surefires, but we've kind of seen where their potential is at. So Brian Robinson, Jalen Warren, everybody knows what Travis Etienne is going to be doing this year. Scattaboo, I like, but I think right now, I don't even say that I want to go best available. I just want to go with somebody that has super high upside, even though the offseason buzz would say otherwise. I don't see Stephon Diggs taking a huge dip like a lot of people are saying. I definitely see Stephon Diggs outperforming Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel at this pick, and I'd rather take a swing on somebody who I've seen give good production and who has a very good quarterback and a quarterback that will be slinging the ball because Drake May is a ball slinger. He is amazing. I am not ready to just be fully out on Diggs yet. I think they gave him that contract for a reason.
And I'm so far on the other side of that. You got a 31-year-old wide receiver who's coming off of an ACL, and he's already partying. Um, I mean, whatever you do, you. But off-season videos of players on boats has not had a good track record. And for Stephon Diggs coming in, I I don't love it. Brian Robinson went off the board right before I pick. That one's a tough one. I mean Brian Robinson, he's pretty criminally underrated in my opinion. They were another team like the Bears where I thought they were going to bring in some pretty good competition. They didn't. So it's really just Brian Robinson's backfield and an aging Austin Eckler. Eckler, I don't think is going to do that much. So Brian Robinson is just a solid. I think he's just a really solid high end running back too, maybe mid running back too, but most weeks you just have a position that you're not worried about. He's not going to win you the week, but he's not going to put up 1 point and lose you the week. So for me here, just looking at my team, so I have Josh Allen. I will say going quarterback right off the jump has been nice. I haven't even really looked at the quarterback tab for a long time. That's nice. However, I mean, we'll see where the guys that I like get picked, but having the option of having like a Dak and Jonathan Taylor, Dak and Lad McConkey. Oh, connection to draft lost. Oh, I'm back. Said connection to draft lost for some reason. I'm back. Anyways, yeah, we'll see like the Dak versus the player I could have got in the second round versus Josh Allen, who I could have got wherever those players end up falling. Um, I'm thinking right now that I would rather have the Dak or Drake May or Justin Fields side of that, but I mean we'll see. So here, my team right now: Josh Allen, Kyron, Kamara, Jefferson and JMO, Jacoby Myers, Caleb Johnson. It's perfectly balanced. Again, I'm still punting the receiver position. I have a receiver. I'm also very much on the opposite from Braden on Brandon Ayuk. Ricky Pearsall's hurt. Brandon Ayuk is most likely going to start on the pup from the news that's coming out so far. And so my pick is going to be Juwan Jennings. Um, I think it's a good pick. I think he's going to be the receiver one for a little bit, even if Pearsall does end up taking over partway through the season. By that point, I can stream off the waiver wire and figure something else out. But this gives me a solid wide receiver two with wide receiver one upside for the first couple weeks of the season. And if I can buy myself 4 or 5 wins in the eighth round, I'll take that every time.
Love it. That puts me on the clock right after you. Juwan Jennings goes, Jared Goff goes, Jaden Reed goes, and Jalen Warren goes the pick before me, meaning that I don't have to stand on my bluff of maybe thinking of taking Jalen Warren over Caleb Johnson. But so that puts me on the clock here. I do not have oh, I do have a tight end. I don't even need to say that. Okay, so I'm looking at. So one of the guys I'm really looking at here is Javonte Williams. I do believe that he is going to be the starter in Dallas. I think he's going to lead that room in production. So I believe. I don't. I think Jaden Blue's a smaller back, a little more of a shifty guy, more of a scat back. I think that. I think Javante is going to seal the job. We've always believed in Dallas running backs. We watched them take Tyler Booker in the first round this offseason. I have a good deal of faith in what that line looks like. I'm going to take Javante Williams here as my running back four. And think that if he
Great pick.
has maybe an outlier season, or maybe just maybe he can return to form. Not that I'm betting on that. I don't need him to do that at this pick, but if he does, I'll feel like I got a smash hit at the back end of the eighth round. And then to open the ninth round, I still do not have a quarterback. But looking at the depth of the guys that are on the board, and looking at the rest of the league that already has their quarterback in a one quarterback league, I see enough guys here that I can still get a value next time we wrap around on my last two picks. So what I'm really doing here, this will be one of my last two skill position picks. So I really just kind of want to shoot for the moon here, and I'm going to scroll a little bit as I do that. I haven't really seen anything that jumped out at me super hard. I see Jordan Mason here is an interesting guy, another guy that I want to bet on finding the leader in a valuable, ambiguous backfield. I believe Jordan Mason will be the guy in Minnesota this year. He is definitely an option. I see Bashal Tutin, which is precisely the same thing. Really love Bashal Tutin. He's got a fumbling problem, which makes him a little worrisome. But you know what? I say it out loud, fumbling problem, and really he either solves it or he doesn't. We've seen fumbling problems be solved in the league before, and just who he is as like an extremely explosive back who just has such good per carry metrics and an offense that I really believe in with Liam Cohen. He's a pass catcher. I think that job will be valuable, and I think that he has the makings of a stud running back if he can clean some of his problems up. You know what? I'm going to go pure upside here with one of my last two picks. I clicked his player profile. Let me close that, and then I'm gonna draft Bashal too.
Great pick. David Njoku, Travis Etienne, Evan Ingram goes the pick before me. He was the player that I was looking at. I need um oh yeah, I forgot that you can put emojis on players now. I was like, what in the world? Why are these guys getting poop emojis on them? Yeah, we're kind of at that spot in the draft.
Oh shit,
Um
Reaper's fucked. Let me put some poop on this dude.
um yeah, I mean, at this point in the draft, I'm definitely looking to fill my tight end. And kind of what I was thinking is there's two tight ends that I'd be fine with. Kind of just pair them together. And then I have another guy that I would like to take a little bit later. I think I'm going to take Tyler Warren. Shoot for the upside of a rookie tight end. I think it's a good pick. I don't have a tight end yet, and yeah,
So
Cooper.
Zach kind of touched on my pick on his last pick, and I believe that I don't think he sold taking Tootin at all, but Jordan Mason is very clearly the running back one in that room, I think, out the gate. I doubt that Aaron Jones repeats what he did last season. Last season was enough to earn him a, good enough extension. But Jordan Mason, we saw what he can do when he is given the lead back role. And I think that's why they traded for him. You're putting him in front of a significantly better line and a system that likes to run the ball. And JJ McCarthy may have to drop off the ball. Jordan Mason's going to be the receiving back there. So I'm taking Mason in the ninth round, which I think is an absolute steal.
It's a great pick.
I think we all love that pick. Excellent pick, Trevor. These next few rounds, I'm going to get some value here. I just am not thrilled about either of these picks. I'm looking at the tight end position, seeing a pretty big drop off. I was hoping either Njoku, Warren, or Ingram got to me. So I'm not really thrilled to take any of those guys. Looking at the wide receiver position, and there's a couple names that are standing out to me as potential league winners. When you get to this range, you should already have a core. I'm looking at my lineup and I'm seeing Jalen Ashton, Travion, Brian, Marvin Harrison, Tetaroa, Brandon Ayuk, Zach Charbonnet. I'm feeling pretty good. Got a couple home run picks there. I'm going to continue to take one more home run pick, and this one is just a pure belief pick. I don't believe in really any of the weapons in this offense that bring the ability that this player does to this offense. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Keon Coleman here. And the reason being is that no one in that offense can play the pure X. And I think that Keon can. And I'm going to go to my next couple picks as I'm looking at my running back room, and I'm not really the most sold on any of the guys on the board. I am looking at one name down the board, and I just don't think he's going to get back to me. So I probably will take him here. Yeah, I am going to take Troy Benson here. I believe that he's not going to really see much impact until we get late into the year, but I'm fine holding Trey Benson on my bench until then.
Benson's a great pick. I really like that pick there, honestly. I can't imagine myself taking any of the running backs right now at this point when I have one last pick that I can use to take a running back because I'm actually not going to take a running back here. I'm stuck between two players. And what I'm looking at is I am looking at a wide receiver room that is good, but I am worried about the top end where if Penix does get hurt, which he is known to get hurt, London could see a drop off if they decide to move off Cousins, which might be a too late situation. You moved off of him, Penix gets hurt, and then I'm not even sure who the QB3 in that room is. But so I see myself taking a quarterback here. Even though I do have Jaden Daniels, the rushing upside is one of my favorite things about him, but it's also the most dangerous thing about him. He's a very small player. I think he's 190 pounds right now, and that's a little scary. So I could see myself taking a quarterback here. However, I am going to go with my gut, and my gut is to go with Matthew Golden, even though Packers receivers historically are not the greatest bet in redraft, dynasty, you name it, fantasy football. Matthew Gold, maybe best ball, but Matthew Golden was picked there for a reason. He's going to be the WR1. They needed a WR1. Josh Jacobs even talked about that, how he hoped that they went and got a WR1. And there were some trade rumors that maybe they were going after somebody, but they ended up picking Matthew Golden. And I think that it's going to show this year.
I don't know if
And
anybody knows, but Matthew Golden actually put on 11 pounds since the combine. I think that's pretty
that's
awesome to
great.
hear for a guy who is probably going to be your main separator on the outside. He's a little bit undersized at 5'11". But yeah, Matthew Golden owners definitely got to be excited. This is, again, one that I think we got to get through a little bit of the thick and the sludge through the beginning of the year. We get to midpoint season. I really like the Michael Pittman pick here. I just want to shout out the CPU Team 7. Michael Pittman was an absolute home run pick. We touched on it earlier in the pod that Anthony Richardson sucks at football. He's not going to be the quarterback. It's probably going to be Daniel Jones. Michael Pittman, what a value pick. At the end of last year, he kind of returned to form, that 8 to 10 target a game guy. Yeah, I like the Michael Pittman CPU pick.
Dude, Pittman's got to be the best player that nobody ever talks about. Like you don't, I never once was like looking at the board and thought, oh wow, nice voice crack there. Never once was I looking at the board and thinking, oh man, I really hope Pittman comes back to me. He's almost kind of a player that's like a filler on the ADP to me where you don't really even notice him. And then you're right, then you see him get drafted and you're like, wow, I don't think Pittman should go in the 10th round. Like for a player that'll be that good, and then obviously Daniel Jones, I think is a significant upgrade from for passing from Anthony Richardson. That's not a pro Daniel Jones. That is severely anti Richardson. I remember everybody was pretty hot and bothered about Richardson last year, and then like week one of the preseason, he threw one of the worst pick sixes you'll ever see. Like rolling out to the left, just like threw it sidearm back across his body to the right, and the linebacker was just like, "Oh hey there, buddy." All that to say, Pittman's a great pick. This was kind of my what I was hoping would happen. Loveland dropped back to me. I was hoping to go like double tap the rookie tight ends and get Warren Loveland. Hopefully one of those two continues the trend of being the number one tight end. Might not happen, but you never know. At the end of the draft, it's a shot that I'm willing to take.
Man,
And
Caleb
Caleb,
Williams going right after you is
yep.
kind of sad. Darnell Mooney after him, Jordan Love after him. I was hoping to hit Caleb Williams so late and complete the stack. However, I still am looking at two guys here. I waited all this time on quarterback. These will be my last two picks. I talked a little bit about just the value difference. So I'm looking at Dak Prescott and Drake May here. Drake May, obviously stud young quarterback, led the league in yards per carry last year, was top five in completion percentage over expectation, and just got massive upgrades all over the team. Brought in a top five pick on the offensive line and another center that fell in the draft that people were excited about. Got some weapons, Travion Henderson, Kyle Williams, just the and just going from Gerard Mayo to Mike Vrabel, the situation could not have gotten better, and he flashed top five upside last year as a quarterback. So I will be taking him here at this pick. I feel like having Drake May and Chase Brown as opposed to Josh Allen and Colston Loveland. I feel so good about that. I think that there's so many more worlds where Drake May scores in the realm of Josh Allen than Colston Loveland scoring in the realm of Chase Brown. That's why I really believe in kind of waiting until this range of quarterbacks. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to double dip. Obviously, there is risk with Drake May. You know what I mean? That the situation was horrible last year. That doesn't always turn around in one season. That he maybe is a little more injury prone because of his running style. I think that. I think that it's good if you're going to wait this long, maybe have a couple of options. And I'm going to take Dak Prescott, someone we've seen have MVP upside. We watched them get George Pickens this offseason. He's already flashing in camp, looking amazing. And just what the stress that CeeDee Lamb in the slot and George Pickens on the outside puts on a defense. It's very difficult to defend. I think Dak, from a redraft perspective, is probably a top redraft or maybe just a talent perspective, like a current you need to win a game tomorrow perspective. Dak is easily a top 10 quarterback in the league. I don't think anyone who knows ball would disagree with that. So I'm going to take Dak here and feel really amazing about my quarterback room.
All right,
That is a
bro, just spit on it. We know you like Drake May, bro. Just spit on it already.
the pairing with Dak though is I mean Dak in the 11th round with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, he's already when he plays full seasons, and that's one of the knocks on him is he does get hurt. maybe a little bit more than you like, and then the Cowboy season falls apart accordingly. But when Dak has weapons, like back when he had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb was starting to break out, he was the quarterback too. We mentioned it before when I won my dynasty championship. It was on the back of Dak and CeeDee going for like 60 points combined pretty much every week on the back half of the season. Dak is a really good quarterback. He gets hated on because they're all it's like we done boys and they throw their hips around and do all sorts of goofy stuff, or Dak does in his warm-ups. He's just a good quarterback, and I think he probably got paid too much money because Jerry's not overly intelligent about handing out his contracts. But he's a super good player. To get him in the 11th round, and also to double back on what Zach said, like this is why I like doing mock drafts. So taking Josh Allen in the second round, I could have gone Chase Brown, Lad McConkey, Taylor, Garrett Wilson, JSN, and paired that with Dak or Drake May or Caleb Williams versus Loveland and Josh Allen. I would so much rather have going into week one. I would so much rather have Dak and Chase Brown than I would Josh Allen and Colston Loveland. I just think that's way better, and that's one of the reasons that mock drafting is great. Would highly recommend doing it is just to see like I got to the end of the draft and I'm like that's a pretty big area where I could have massively improved this team. This last pick I'm going to take Kyle Williams. My philosophy with the last pick of my draft is I want to take somebody that I can cut after week one. Either Kyle Williams, I mean, if Kyle Williams basically runs no routes and is not involved, looks like he's not an NFL receiver, then I'm going to drop him. I'm going to go hard after whoever that waiver wire guy is week one, which there always is. Or Kyle Williams explodes and is that waiver wire week one guy, except I already have him on my team. And so, last pick of the draft, I love going for upside. I'll take Kyle Williams here. I already talked about that. I don't like Stephon Diggs, Jalen Polk. We cooked Mr. Ledford on last episode for trading a 1 and a 2 for him. Not a big Jalen Polk guy. Kyle Williams has a real opportunity to show out here, and I want to get ahead of the week one waiver wire pickup of the week. Emeka
Ibuka, Tajay
Egbuka.
Spears, CJ Stroud, Dallas Goedert all go next. Ibuka was in heavy consideration for me.
hmm
Now we got Trevor.
Igbuka's nice. I mean, if Chris Godwin signs with the Patriots in the other world, Igbuka's off the board probably within the first 6 rounds easily.
Easily.
Now, because Chris Godwin is there, obviously, I was still thinking of taking him because I love him, but I kind of agree with Justin where you kind of want a player that you can cut week one if you have to, but I feel like you also want a player that you could trade if you have to. Because if you have that player where it's like let's just say week one, Jaden Daniels has a Theismann. Lord forbid, that would be the worst. But if it happens,
Amen.
I need a quarterback. I need a running back if it's looking like my two rookies aren't panning out well. So I'm going to take a player that I wouldn't really want to trade and I would like having as my backup quarterback, but I also could get a lot for him if it works out, and that's JJ McCarthy. This is one of the best situations a quarterback can come into. Last year, we had high hopes for Sam Darnold and whoever the Vikings were going to take at quarterback, saying this is a furnished apartment. Well, they added another first round lineman to that furnished apartment, and you added Justin Jefferson, and you still have Jordan Addison, and you still have TJ Hawkinson, and you made that running back room better. This is an amazing opportunity for McCarthy to really ball out, and I think he will.
Also added Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. I do not want that to go overlooked at all. Like that overhaul of the interior offensive line is, we talked so much about what the Bears did to the offensive line this offseason, and the Vikings did better. Yeah, absolutely. I understand. Maybe trading quarterback is not the strategy I would have gone with in a redraft one QB league, but at least the quarterback evaluation process is sound.
All right, with the last pick in the draft, I'm gonna go with an absolute stinker. I've got most of my roster filled out. In this draft, we don't have any extra bench spots. We only have three, so I have one spot open. It's a tight end. I'm evaluating the tight ends available. I've put on my clown mask 3 seasons in a row with Kyle Pitts. For the sake of the mock, I won't do it. I really can't. I've really thought about it. I've battled it here.
But he's so
Um,
young.
He's so
He's so
young.
young and
There's
so
so much
good.
potential. What if he gets traded to the Chiefs? I don't
He was
really
the
know.
fourth overall pick, Braden. Do you know that?
I do just want to add that in his first season, he got one touchdown. His second season, two. Third season,
Yep.
three. Fourth season, four. We are entering season five, guaranteed five touchdown. If this was Dynasty, you hold him for 3 years and he's a top 10 guy.
That's where exactly my head is at. Is the reason I didn't take Kyle Pitts here is because it's not a dynasty league. I'm gonna go with a disgusting pick. I think this is a name that has gotten a little bit of unwanted um garbage time as of recent, but I'm gonna go with Pat Fryermuth here, and it's single-handedly is this is an anti-Calvin Austin, an anti literally any other receiving option in an Aaron Rodgers offense. Aaron Rodgers likes the tight end, especially a guy who attacks the middle of the field, especially a guy who attacks in the red zone. I'm gonna go with Pat Fryermuth here. It's not a sexy pick, but it's probably evaluating the other tight ends, unless you're a Kyle Pitts truther, which I just don't know if those exist besides me anymore. Zach Ertz, Isaiah Likely, you're hoping for an injury in front of him. Hunter Henry, vomit. K. Dotton, all right. Mason Taylor is catching balls from a running back. I'm not really evaluating anybody else. I'm going to sprint in the pick with Pat Fryermuth, get a little bit grossed out by the pick. But yeah, Pat Fryermuth to finish out the draft.
All right.
Love that
So
pick. Very good pick there. Do we want to run over our teams one by
that's
one,
what I was
Jesse? Off?
that's what I was gonna do. So Zach with the number one overall pick, he had quarterbacks Drake May and Dak Prescott, Chase Brown and RJ Harvey at running back, Jamar and Devonta Smith at receiver, Trey McBride at tight end, Rome Odunze and DeAndre Swift in the flex, bench Javonte, Bishal Tootin. That's a really good team. It's got some really top heavy pieces, but I think it's also got some pretty solid depth and then some good shots at quarterback. My team, all right. I was at pick five. Josh Allen is my quarterback. Kyron and Kamara are my starting running backs. I have Justin Jefferson, Jameson Williams at receiver, Jacoby Myers, Caleb Johnson at the flex, Jawan Jennings, Colston Loveland. Oh, sorry, I forgot to say tight end Tyler Warren paired with Colston Loveland. And then on the bench, Jawan Jennings and Kyle Williams. I will say I don't love how this team turned out. I think I probably did reach on Jameson Williams a little bit. I like Jefferson and Allen, but like we discussed earlier, I think the second versus 11th round, the quarterback gap isn't that big for what you're giving up. Down all the way down over at, oh my goodness, at pick number 10, if I can get there. Good grief. All right, pick 10, Trevor. Jaden Daniels, not a massive surprise at quarterback. 310, I think, is a great value on Jaden Daniels. I think even picking around later and giving up, like, if I could have Jonathan Taylor or Chase Brown and Jaden Daniels, I think it'd be better than Josh Allen and Kyron Williams. Amarian Hampton and Quinshon Judkins at running back. Malik and Drake London, phenomenal receiver core. Jonnu Smith at tight end, Xavier Worthy and Stephon Diggs in the flex, Jordan Mason, Matthew Golden, and then a dart throw in JJ McCarthy on the bench. And then last but not least, Braden at pick 12, Jalen Hurts at quarterback, Genty and Travion Henderson at running back, Brian Thomas and Marv at receiver. That's a great receiver room. Freiermuth at tight end is obviously the massive hole on this team. Um, Tedero McMillan, Brandon Ayuk at the flex, Charbonnet, Keon Coleman, and Trey Benson round out that roster. Um, I mean, just kind of quick off the top comments. It was fun. I think it's good to kind of get a lay of the land. A lot's going to change throughout OTAs and then into minicamp and preseason, but it's kind of good to get a good gauge on where people are right now.
Good work, fellas. I love it.
Yeah, I like it, and I definitely see the error with the Diggs pick. However, if Ricky Pearsall isn't hurt, he's the pick there for sure.
I
Problem is he is
think
But
hurt.
that
I
was
I can
That's all right.
I I just can't touch. I couldn't touch Calvin Ridley or Deebo Samuel. I just
That's
couldn't. I
fair.
would rather take at least a WR1.
That's fair.
Kyle Williams is the wide receiver one in New England, at least by week 3. So I don't know where you're coming at with the wide receiver one, but
Dude, there's a
Bold. I love
comedy
it.
club off of Roma. You can go tell your jokes there, bro.
Right. All right. I'm sure I'll find your dad there, Mr.
You
Lose
will.
in the second
He's
round of the
there
fantasy playoffs every year. I
Oh,
was
every single
three
year.
points away. All right. I'll
Three
find
point
you
points
there.
one
away.
six.
Right up
Point
there.
one six, everybody. Okay. All right, that's gonna
That
wrap up our
that poor
episode
Fox. He'd
number.
probably be a he.
Oh no, go for it.
Well, I was gonna say he'd probably have a chip by now, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he likes to tell everybody he would.
Mhm.
That's all right. That's the way the ball bounces sometimes. Maybe this year. Maybe this year. All right, that'll wrap up episode number 6. We'll be back next week for episode number 7. We're almost 2 months in. Good work.
I'm going.